If you're a local business owner trying to grow on YouTube, you're likely treating your thumbnails like it's a digital billboard. Logos, headshots, and way too much text. But that professional look could be exactly why people aren't clicking your video. And instead of assuming we had the perfect design strategy, we decided to look at the data of those who are actually winning on YouTube. We reverse engineered their framework, analyzed the psychology of the click, and then trained AI on those exact principles so we could verify our thumbnails before we hit publish. And within this discovery, I came up with a checklist for thumbnails. And in this video, I'm giving you the checklist that we came up with through that process and that discovery. And I'm going to show you one branding mistake that is most certainly killing your reach. And if you want to see how we're using AI to make sure and confirm the click within the first 7 seconds, this is the video for you.
We aren't just a video production company, we are business solution-driven creatives. And this is more than meets the eye.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the More Than Meets the Eye podcast, where we talk about what's behind a person, a product, or a practice, especially when it comes to marketing. I'm Jared Taylor, and I've got my coffee. Well, is it coffee? Let me know. Make a guess. And I want to welcome you to JT Visuals, and that's without the I, because there's more than meets the eye. Today, we're looking at the practice of the authority-driven engine called YouTube for businesses who are starting YouTube channels or trying to take off. If you're below 1,000 subscribers, this is the right video for you. Hey, sorry to interrupt, but Joe, you got something on your chest.
When I failed my first 8 business, I chalked it up to a couple of things. Number one, I was very proud and I didn't learn how to build a business. But the second thing I realized is I didn't go to school for this.
And it's fun to try to figure things out and explore, but then there comes a point where you're like, wait, hold on. What are all the other successful business owners doing?
We've provided something for you if you feel the same exact way. We've provided Skool, S-K-O-O-L, entrepreneur experience, where you can actually have free content and a community of people that are also in there that are entrepreneurs that love to give feedback and ask for feedback. If you don't feel like you have the resources enough to help you become successful, join our Skool.
It starts for free. So what are you waiting for? Go to jtvisuals.com/Skool. That's JTVisuals without the I, and that's Skool with a K.
Now back to the show.
So if you're like me at all, then you've seen that when you put out videos, you believe thumbnails to be important. You can't just rely on YouTube auto finding a frame from your video and then calling that the thumbnail. It's not a checkbox that you just put there. It's actually the first deciding factor as to why someone clicks on your video. Now, I've always realized there's high importance, but the thing is, how do you actually implement that? Because it's not about desiring better outcomes. It's about how to actually put that in place. What frameworks work? What are other people doing? And this is what I have found. There's that saying that if you try to say everything, you end up saying nothing. And this goes to show for actual billboards. This goes to show for signage, yard signs. Like I used to design for churches and they would always say, can you make this bigger? Can you make this bigger when I was doing approvals? But for the design, it didn't actually serve the purpose. They would want to include every single thing possible and then make everything big so it stands out. But then nothing stands out because it says too much. It's very much the same thing with YouTube videos. And I used to do that. Even knowing that was the case, I still felt like I needed to include the name of the guest. I needed to include which podcast logo it was, the company logo, the subject matter, and then all the faces and a thumbnail, something that represented what people would actually watch. And for that part, I was pretty right on the environment. But the text was completely off. There's way too much text. I tried to say everything, ended up saying nothing. So really the first lesson I learned is that even thumbnails are not digital billboards. Even though I'm not being as salesy like a digital billboard and I'm trying to be helpful to help guide people towards the video, my good intention didn't matter. It still said too much. And then the first lesson with this is very hard for someone like me, whoever thinks, to come around, which is less is more. I always like to play around with the saying because if less is more, then is more less? And then if less is more and you do less, and then there's more, is that more or is it less? More or less. I know that's confusing, but we all get the point. It's the simplicity of it all. You say too much, you end up saying nothing, even just like that joke. But if you want to stop being a local billboard and start being that go-to expert of your industry, then you have to look at the data of the people and brands who actually own the attention economy. And while looking through all this data, including paying for courses to do this, I found 5 common things that relate to thumbnails specifically for those who show up on the algorithm. Yes, the homepage of YouTube, the spot where if people click it, you get a lot of views. And that's the rule that I learned. If they don't click, they don't watch. Sounds super simple, but that's what the thumbnail does. Thumbnail and title together help with that. But specifically today about thumbnails, there are 5 things that I learned. The first thing is the squint test. They say that once you finish your thumbnail designs, you should shrink it to about the size of a mailing postage stamp. I know it's crazy. And you should be able to squint and then figure out what this video is about, or create enough curiosity to want to know what it's about. If you can't tell what the subject is, then it could be a fail. Now on this one, I'm not quite sure this is always the case, which is why point 2 is a lot better. Point 2 is about keeping it minimal. It's the 3-element limit. There's the subject, which is you, or the guest, count them all lumped in as one, plus the object, which is the problem, plus the background, which is the context, and no logos, no extra text, no clutter. But what if I post this on Facebook and someone takes my photo and shares it and no one realizes it came from my channel? Well, dude, if that's the case, then whatever. Make something different for Facebook then. But for YouTube, it needs to stay simple. We found that 3 to 5 words max are the best. 3 is great if it can convey the subject, and then zoom in and have really good headshots for the subject. And a mistake I usually see is that people will do this way too far away and be like a full body shot, or like it would be a cowboy shot, like from the mid thigh up or something like that. But if you go and look at all of the people with millions of views on YouTube, even for podcast videos, look at how far zoomed in they are to their face. And then how many words are on there. Sometimes there's not even a word at all. And then there's the background element. The background element could be the thing. Like if someone said, I caught my room on fire doing this, then we'd want to show fire in the thumbnail somewhere because that's enticing, that's clickable. But you wouldn't necessarily say fire in the thumbnail because we already said it in the title. And that leads us into the subject of point 3, which is the information gap, or some people can call this the bridge. If your title is how to scale your agency, your thumbnail shouldn't say scale your agency. It should be a graph or a before and after shot that makes them ask how. So make sure the title is not repeated in the thumbnail. For one, even if you're text and text, I used to treat it as an opportunity for 2 different hooks, but that didn't make sense because what would hook someone in the title could unhook them from the thumbnail. Like, I'm not curious about that. I don't know. So for the thumbnail to do its job properly, according to point 3, it should prompt them to ask how, and it should show it more than tell it. And point 4 can be a little bit more subjective, but it's about high contrast and human emotion. There is a such thing as too much contrast. It's about finding the right amount at the right taste. So you got to test and measure until you see it. Now you're always, no matter what, gonna get people soliciting to you using tools like vidIQ, or you're gonna see it even like when you address it with AI. It's subjective of what high contrast is. So for example, okay, I had this email from someone who's saying, hey, we can make your thumbnails better. In fact, we did the first one for free. And they weren't just offering to do it for free. They already did it for free. They already put in the work just to try and get a sale for it and sent the JPEG. And I don't like harping on people, but look at it. Okay, so if you see it, and you're on YouTube, then awesome. But I got to describe it for the people listening. So I have the blue backgrounds, kind of contrasty, and we have the title text, and then we have me on there. And all this person did was change my shirt color. I think it was blue, and they changed it to yellow. But you can actually like see where they changed it to yellow. And yellow is not in my branding. Like, even though that's a good contrast color, even though like the algorithms may say people are more likely to click if you wear a yellow shirt or something, like that's not me, because I'm finding a way to be branded as a company and help on the algorithm of YouTube. So it has to make absolute sense for a color change so drastic like that. Like, I would rather change the background color to make higher contrast, which is actually what we've done recently. We've darkened the color just a little bit to add a little bit more contrast and adjusted the style and the look. And I found a look that I really like. So if you've seen our thumbnails, go back and look. Even look at like the Entrepreneur Experience podcast we have listed on our channel. You can see all those thumbnail differences. Go back and look at these ones. Look at the evolution, how we've been adjusting, how we've been changing. The recent ones are the ones, in my opinion, that look the most professional, and they look so much like those $1 million view people. So thumbnails are not our issue anymore. There's no way it can't be just because of the thumbnail. There are other elements to it than the thumbnail for us at this point. I am convinced. Stop DMing me. And the fifth point is the confirm the click asset. Whatever is in that thumbnail shouldn't be clickbait to where they don't see it. And even if they see it way later in your video, that's an issue with the thumbnail, or it could be an issue with your video, which is very important to have the same team and have the same people working on it together. You can't just make a video and then magically have a thumbnail generated based on that video without being able to go back and think about it. Because you could make a really good thumbnail, but if it doesn't deliver and confirm the click within the first 7 seconds of the video that they watch, then there's an issue. There's a mismatch. It has to align. There has to be an expectation match. So for example, if there is fire, like in the example thumbnail we described before, then there should be fire at least teased within the first 7 seconds of the video. If you're talking about a truck hit you on a podcast and you survived, and that's represented in the thumbnail, then when they click on the video, they need to hear a snippet of that. It doesn't have to be the full thing if you want to save that, because yeah, that's good retention material. But you need to have a snippet of that in the beginning, and you got to make sure it matches. So sometimes you don't have a thumbnail issue, you have a video issue, but sometimes you don't have a video issue, you have a thumbnail issue. And sometimes the whole issue is both aren't working together. That's why I want to provide these resources and my findings as I grow in this area along with you. If you've been finding this material valuable to you, please subscribe. And if you have discovered anything along the journey or farther ahead, then let me know in the comments below what your findings are with thumbnails, and we can all grow together. And really, once you master the packaging of your YouTube content for your business, the only thing left is the community to help you scale it. And this AI that I'm training will be shareable in the future with a little more testing on our Skool community. So go ahead and join the Skool community if you're brand building through YouTube. So if you want to stop guessing and start engineering your authority, the link is in the description below. So subscribe, and on the next one, we'll talk about another area that can help us business owners grow on YouTube. Well, thanks for tuning in on this one. I'm Jared Taylor, and I want to remind you to keep on keeping on.